The Silent Declaration. Grand Administrator Vextal of the Galactic Council's executive chamber stood motionless before the vast observation window of the Centennial Hall. The crystalline spires of New Alexandria stretched endlessly below, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. In his centuries of service, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. The message from Earth had arrived precisely 6 hours ago, and its implications threatened to unravel millennia of carefully maintained galactic order. "They can't be serious," muttered Counselor Jera, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with agitation. A single planetary system, barely 3 centuries into their space age, declaring themselves off-limits to Council oversight. It's unprecedented. Vextal's upper appendages twitched slightly, the only outward sign of his inner turmoil. And yet, Counselor, the humans have already demonstrated their capability to enforce this declaration. The monitoring fleet's reports are concerning. The chamber's holoprojector activated, displaying a series of incidents from the past standard month. Council vessels of varying classes, from simple automated probes to military-grade cruisers, all rendered inert upon approaching Earth's claimed territory. No destruction, no violence, simply sophisticated technological neutralization that left even the most advanced Council ships drifting helplessly in space. "The humans call it the Aegis," explained Science Director Klon, his cybernetic eyes whirring as he analyzed the data streams. "Our initial scan suggested primitive electromagnetic shielding, but it's far more sophisticated. They've somehow managed to create a selective barrier that identifies and disables any technology not bearing their authorization protocols." Vextal remembered his first encounter with humans, barely 50 years ago. They had seemed so ordinary. Bilateral symmetry, carbon-based biology, tribal social structures. Nothing to suggest they would become such a disruption to the natural order. The Council had followed its standard procedures: gradual technological sharing, carefully monitored development, and subtle guidance toward eventual integration into the greater galactic community. What went wrong? Jera demanded, her patterns now showing streaks of frustrated red. "We gave them everything they needed to advance properly. Our educational programs, our technological templates, our cultural guidelines." "That," interrupted Klon, "may have been our first mistake. We assumed they would follow the same developmental path as other species. Instead, they took our basic principles and developed entirely new applications we had never considered." The holoprojector shifted to display a series of human innovations. Where Council technology relied on quantum manipulation, humans had developed something they called wave-particle duality drives. While Council ships used crystalline matrices for computing, humans had created organic digital hybrid systems that defied conventional classification. "They didn't copy our homework," Klon continued, a note of reluctant admiration in his voice. "They looked at our answers, understood the underlying principles, and then solved the problems in completely different ways." Vextal moved away from the window, his exoskeleton casting fractal shadows across the chamber floor. "And now they've developed something we can't counter, can't understand, and can't control. The implications for Council authority." A soft chime interrupted his thoughts as a new message arrived. The holoprojector switched to display a human diplomatic representative, Dr. Sarah Chen. Her expression was polite but firm, her formal attire a curious blend of traditional Earth styles and modern cosmic aesthetics. "Greetings, honored members of the Council. I trust you've had time to review our initial declaration. To address some concerns we've heard. No, this is not a hostile action. Yes, we are willing to maintain trade relationships. And no, we will not be sharing Aegis technology, though we are happy to help other civilizations develop their own unique defensive solutions." Vextal noted the careful wording. Not their technology, but their approach to developing technology. It was subtle, yet revolutionary, suggesting a fundamental shift in how species might advance and interact. "The age of standardized development is over," Dr. Chen continued. Earth believes that true galactic harmony comes not from uniformity, but from diversity. Each species, each civilization has unique perspectives and approaches. By embracing these differences rather than suppressing them, we all grow stronger. The message ended, leaving the chamber in uncomfortable silence. Vextal's mind raced with implications. For millennia, the Council had maintained order through controlled technological development and cultural integration. Earth's action wasn't just a declaration of independence, it was a challenge to the very foundation of galactic civilization. We could attempt a show of force, Jera suggested, though her patterns betrayed her uncertainty. The combined fleet cold. Could what? Kalan interrupted. Be rendered as helpless as our probe ships. And what message would that send to other developing worlds? No, this requires a different approach. Vextal moved to the center of the chamber, his decision crystallizing. We need to understand what this means for the future of the Council. If Earth succeeds in this endeavor, others will follow. The Proximus Cluster has already shown interest in human methodologies. The Orion Alliance has been questioning our oversight for centuries. You're suggesting we accept this? Jera's patterns flared with shock. I'm suggesting we adapt, Vextal replied. For too long, we've confused unity with uniformity. Perhaps the humans are showing us a new way forward. As the three suns finally set, casting the chamber into the subtle glow of orbital lights, Vextal realized they were witnessing more than just a declaration of independence. This was the beginning of a new era in galactic history, one where the path to the stars had many routes, and each civilization would need to find its own way to walk among them. Ripples across the stars. The Proximus trading station hung like a jeweled spider's web in the void between stars, its crystalline arms stretching outward to accommodate vessels of all shapes and designs. Ambassador Lyra Martinez walked its transparent corridors with practiced ease, her boots making no sound on the quantum-stabilized floors. After 3 months of secret negotiations, today would change everything. In a private chamber overlooking the bustling trading lanes, representatives from 7 independent systems waited. None were powerful enough alone to challenge the Council's authority, but together, with Earth's support, they represented something unprecedented: choice. The Council's emissaries have increased their visits, reported Tejalon of the Arcturus Collective, his feathered crest rippling with concern. They speak of stability, of the dangers of uncontrolled technological development. But we've seen the data from Earth's success. Lyra activated a holographic display, showing the latest economic projections. In the 3 months since we activated the Aegis, Earth's industrial productivity has increased by 300%. Without the need to conform to Council technological standards, our scientists and engineers are free to pursue optimization paths specifically suited to human physiology and thinking patterns. The chamber filled with excited murmuring. Ixal, the crystalline entity representing the silicon worlds, chimed melodiously. Your success proves what many of us have long suspected, that the Council's universal development path isn't universal at all. It's merely the path that best suits the founding species' natural inclinations. Exactly, Lyra confirmed. Take the Council's quantum computing paradigm. It's elegant, efficient. If you evolve from silicon-based life forms like the Council's founding races, but for carbon-based species, for crystalline entities like yourself, for energy beings, one size does not fit all. She gestured, and a hologram shifted to display a new set of technical specifications. Earth isn't offering you our technology. We're offering you our methodology. Each of your civilizations has unique strengths, unique ways of perceiving and interacting with reality. Why should you be forced to think and build like species that evolved under completely different circumstances? The Council claims their approach prevents dangerous technological divergence, noted Ambassador Kral of the Orion worlds, their photonic form flickering with uncertainty. They speak of the precursor wars, of civilizations destroyed by incompatible technological paradigms. Lyra had expected this concern. It was the Council's primary justification for their rigid control of technological development. The Council prevents conflict by enforcing uniformity. We propose preventing it through understanding. Earth has already established successful protocols for technological cooperation between radically different approaches. The hologram updated again, showing the successful integration of Earth's wave-particle drives with proxim and quantum tunneling technology. The resulting hybrid systems were more efficient than either approach alone, yet required no standardization. Each civilization maintained its unique technological base while developing interface protocols for cooperation. But the cost, warned Tegelon. The Council's technology sharing programs are designed to maintain dependence. Lyra interrupted gently. Think about it. Why do they freely share advanced technology, but strictly control the underlying principles? Why are client worlds required to purchase maintenance and upgrades exclusively through Council-approved channels? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For millennia, the Council had presented itself as a benevolent guide, freely sharing the fruits of advanced technology, but they had always maintained strict control over the seeds. Earth proposes a different model. Lyra continued. We call it the Stellar Diversity Initiative. Each member civilization develops technology according to their own natural inclinations and advantages. We share principles rather than products, understanding rather than dependency. And yes, this means slower initial development, but it leads to genuine technological independence. And military independence, added Krell, their photonic matrix pulsing thoughtfully. The Aegis proves it's possible to develop defensive capabilities the Council cannot overcome. Lyra nodded. Earth's Aegis works by manipulating fundamental forces in ways that complement human cognitive patterns. It's highly effective for us, but it wouldn't work nearly as well for your civilizations. But imagine what kinds of defensive systems the Silicon worlds could develop, working with crystalline matrices in ways organic minds could never conceive. Or the Orion Collective, using their intrinsic understanding of photonic manipulation. The excitement in the chamber was palpable now. Ixal's crystalline form resonated with possibility. The Council called Earth's declaration an act of isolation. But this is the opposite. True cooperation, not forced uniformity. Precisely. Lyra smiled. We're not asking anyone to choose between isolation and submission. We're offering a third path. Independence with cooperation. The ability to develop according to your own nature while maintaining peaceful exchange with others. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. The station's AI announced. Council diplomatic vessel requesting emergency docking clearance. Stated purpose. Delivery of critical policy update regarding independent technological development. The chamber erupted in nervous discussion, but Lyra remained calm. Right on schedule, she said. They finally realized what's really happening. This isn't just about Earth anymore. What do we do? Asked Tegelon, his crest fully extended with alarm. We receive them politely, Lyra replied. And then we show them something they've never seen before. A united front of developing civilizations choosing their own path forward. Not in anger, not in defiance, but in simple recognition of a fundamental truth, that diversity, not uniformity, is the true strength of the galaxy. She looked out at the assembled representatives, seeing in their varied forms and expressions the future she had worked so hard to bring about. The Council believes they face a crisis of authority. In truth, they face something far more significant, a crisis of philosophy. For too long, they've confused peace with control, stability with stagnation. Today, we begin proving there's another way. As the Council representatives were escorted to the chamber, Lyra reflected on how far they'd come. Earth's declaration of independence had been just the first step. What truly mattered wasn't the technology that kept others out, but the ideas that brought them together. Ideas that were already spreading across the galaxy, unstoppable as light itself, carrying with them the promise of a future where each civilization could reach for the stars in their own unique way. The chamber doors opened, and the real work of reshaping the galaxy began. The breaking point. Admiral Helena Chen stared at the tactical display aboard the Earth Defense Command Center, watching as 15 Council warships emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Their energy signatures were unmistakable. Terminus-class battlecruisers, the pride of the Council's military fleet. Under normal circumstances, such a force could subdue an entire sector. "They're not responding to hails," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, his hands dancing over the neural interface. "But they're broadcasting on all frequencies." It's Admiral Zix of the Council's Enforcement Division. The holographic image of Admiral Zix materialized in the command center, his crystalline form radiating authority. "This is your final warning. Earth's illegal technological segregation ends now. You have 1 standard hour to deactivate your defensive systems and submit to Council oversight, or we will be forced to take direct action." Helena allowed herself a small smile. They still don't understand, do they? She opened a channel to all Earth defense stations and allied observers. "This is Admiral Chen. Initiate Protocol Lighthouse." Across the solar system, hundreds of seemingly innocuous satellites and automated mining platforms suddenly activated. But instead of weapons, they began broadcasting vast amounts of data. Scientific papers, engineering principles, theoretical frameworks, all carefully selected and translated for different species comprehension patterns. "What are they doing?" Zix demanded, his crystalline surface flickering with confusion. "Sharing," Helena replied simply. "Everything we've learned about developing technology in harmony with our natural cognitive patterns. Our successes, our failures, our methodologies. Everything except the specific implementations. Those, as always, each species must develop for themselves. This is your response to a military ultimatum, an information dump." Zix's voice carried equal parts confusion and contempt. "No," Helena corrected. "This is our response to fear. The Council isn't really afraid of our technology. You're afraid of what it represents. The idea that there might be other valid paths to advancement, other ways of thinking that don't fit your carefully controlled paradigm." The tactical display showed Council ships moving into attack formation. They were beautiful in their way, their crystalline structures reflecting the distant sunlight like artificial stars. But they were also products of a philosophy that valued uniformity over adaptation, control over growth. "You're broadcasting classified technological data across open channels," Zix warned. "This violation alone is completely legal under Section 7 of the Council's own independent development protocols." Helena interrupted. "We're sharing theoretical frameworks, not technical implementations. The Council has always allowed the sharing of scientific principles. You just never imagined a civilization would choose to broadcast them freely." The Council fleet continued its advance, but Helena noticed something interesting in their formation. Several ships were showing subtle variations in their power signatures, signs that their crews were already beginning to analyze and respond to the broadcast data. "Your Aegis system cannot withstand a concentrated assault from our entire fleet," Zix declared. "Our combined firepower was never the point," Helena finished. "The Aegis isn't just a shield, Admiral. It's a demonstration. Proof that a species can develop more effectively by working with their natural inclinations rather than against them. How many Council ships have crystalline crews? How many are staffed by energy beings or silicon-based life forms? Each of them forced to use technology optimized for biological patterns they don't naturally follow." She gestured, and new data streams appeared in the broadcast. "Look at your own fleet's efficiency ratings. The ships with crystalline crews consistently underperform in quantum navigation. The energy-based crews struggle with materialization protocols. Not because they're inferior, but because they're using tools designed for someone else's way of thinking." The Council fleet's advance had slowed, their formation showing signs of uncertainty. Helena's tactical display highlighted multiple ships where crew members were actively engaging with the broadcast data, comparing it to their own experiences. "This is your final warning," Zix repeated, but there was a new note in his voice. Doubt. No, Helena replied calmly. This is your first real choice. Look at your own ships, Admiral. Look at how your crystalline crews are already beginning to recognize patterns they naturally understand, seeing possibilities the Council's standardized development program never allowed them to explore. The tactical display showed increasing power fluctuations throughout the Council fleet. Not damage or degradation, but change. Crews experimentally adjusting their systems based on their own natural insights. You're trying to divide our fleet, Zix accused. Turn crew against crew. We're offering perspective, Helena corrected. The Council teaches that technological standardization prevents conflict. But look at your fleet right now. Your crystalline crews are naturally gifted at understanding lattice-based computing. Your energy beings excel at manipulating quantum states. Your silicon-based life forms have an intuitive grasp of molecular manufacturing. Together, understanding and working with these natural differences, you could be so much more effective than forcing everyone to use the same standardized systems. The Council fleet's formation had completely broken down now, not in chaos but in transformation. Ships were clustering based on crew composition, each group beginning to experiment with optimizations suited to their natural capabilities. This is why we broadcast our principles freely, Helena explained. Not to give away secrets, but to show what's possible when you embrace diversity instead of fearing it. The Aegis works for us because it matches human cognitive patterns. But imagine what your crystalline crews could develop, working with systems optimized for their natural understanding of lattice structures, or your energy beings, free to explore quantum manipulation methods that organic minds could never conceive. Zix's holographic form showed signs of internal conflict, his crystalline surface refracting with complex patterns. The Council's standardization protocols have maintained peace for millennia. They've maintained stagnation, Helena countered. Peace doesn't come from forcing everyone to be the same. It comes from understanding and valuing our differences. Look at your fleet, Admiral. Really look at what's happening right now. The tactical display told the story. Council ships were already performing better as their crews cautiously implemented insights natural to their species. Crystalline crewed vessels showed improved computational efficiency. Ships with energy being crews demonstrated enhanced quantum field manipulation. Each group was discovering strengths they'd always had but never been allowed to explore. We don't want to fight you, Admiral, Helena said softly. We want to learn from you and show you what we've learned in return. The galaxy is vast enough for many paths to the stars. All we have to do is let each civilization find the one that best suits their nature. The command center fell silent as everyone waited for Zix's response. The future of galactic civilization hung in the balance, not on the outcome of a battle, but on whether an old idea could give way to a new understanding. Finally, Zix spoke. Perhaps we should discuss this further. Under less confrontational circumstances. Helena smiled. The real victory wasn't in the technology that had kept the Council fleet at bay. It was in the idea that had transformed their understanding of what was possible. We would welcome that discussion, Admiral. After all, the best solutions come from combining different perspectives, not forcing everyone to see things the same way. Paradigm shift. The Grand Archive of New Alexandria had stood unchanged for millennia, its crystalline towers housing the collected knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. Today, those towers reflected more than just sunlight. They mirrored the transformation sweeping across the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen walked its hallowed halls alongside Council Science Director Klon, observing as teams of researchers from dozens of species worked together in ways unprecedented in galactic history. In one chamber, crystalline beings interfaced directly with computing matrices, their natural lattice structures allowing for processing speeds that organic minds could barely comprehend. In another, energy beings manipulated quantum states with an intuitive grace that made traditional council methods seem clumsy and primitive. 6 months. Kalan mused, his cybernetic eyes whirring as they recorded everything. 6 months since the confrontation at Earth, and we've seen more technological innovation than in the previous century. It's humbling. Sarah nodded, watching as a group of silicon-based researchers demonstrated their newly developed manufacturing techniques. The Council spent millennia trying to prevent technological divergence. In doing so, you also prevented technological synergy. They paused before a massive holographic display showing the galaxy's trade routes. Traditional Council-controlled quantum corridors were highlighted in blue, but new pathways appeared in various colors, each representing travel methods optimized for different species' natural capabilities. The Crystalline Confederation's lattice dry ships, Kalan noted, indicating a cluster of green pathways. They can achieve faster-than-light travel through methods we never imagined, using their natural understanding of crystalline structure to fold space itself. And the Photonic Alliance's quantum stream network. He gestured to the red paths that seemed to ignore traditional spatial limitations entirely. Each civilization finding its own path to the stars, Sarah said. But notice how the paths intersect, how they complement each other. The crystalline ships can create stable corridors that other species can use. The photonic network can transmit data faster than any previous method. Different approaches working together, making everyone stronger. They entered a new section of the archive, one dedicated to Earth's contribution to galactic science. But instead of technical specifications or engineering diagrams, the displays showed methodologies, thought processes, and theoretical frameworks. This was the true power of your Aegis system, Kalan realized. Not the technology itself, but what it represented. The proof that a civilization could advance faster by embracing its natural inclinations rather than forcing itself to follow another species' path. Sarah smiled. The Council's standardization program was built on the assumption that technological differences inevitably lead to conflict. But look around you. When civilizations are free to develop in their own way, they naturally seek to understand and complement each other's strengths. The evidence was everywhere. In one chamber, human researchers collaborated with energy beings, combining Earth's wave-particle theory with their partners' natural quantum manipulation abilities. The resulting hybrid technologies were more efficient than anything either species could have developed alone. The Council feared that technological divergence would make different species developments incompatible, Kalan said. Instead, it's creating new forms of compatibility we never imagined possible. They reached an observation deck overlooking the archive's central plaza. Below, representatives from dozens of species mingled freely, sharing insights and discussing possibilities that would have been unthinkable under the old system. The Stellar Diversity Initiative has already attracted over 300 member worlds, Sarah noted, not counting the independent research colonies and specialized development centers. Each focusing on their natural strengths, each contributing to the greater whole in their own unique way. Kalan's cybernetic eyes focused on a group of younger researchers, Council species working alongside former client races, each bringing their own perspective to shared problems. We were so focused on preventing the mistakes of the past that we failed to imagine the possibilities of the future. The precursor wars made us fear difference, when we should have been learning to understand it. Fear of difference is natural, Sarah acknowledged. Every species faces that challenge as they evolve. The real test isn't in overcoming fear, but in moving past it to see the opportunities that diversity creates. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. The holographic display shifted to show a new breakthrough from one of the hybrid research teams, a method of quantum communication that combined Council crystalline technology with human wave-particle theory and Photonic Alliance energy manipulation. 3 different approaches to the same problem, Kalan observed, each incomplete on its own, but together. His voice trailed off as he studied the implications. Together, they create something greater than the sum of their parts, Sarah finished. That's the real lesson Earth wanted to share, not just that different paths to advancement are possible, but that they're essential. The galaxy isn't enriched by forcing everyone to follow the same path. It's enriched by letting each civilization bring their unique strengths to a common journey. The sun was setting over New Alexandria, its light refracting through the crystalline towers to create a spectacular display of color and pattern. Klon watched it with new appreciation, understanding now that even the way different species perceive beauty could lead to new insights and possibilities. "The Council spent millennia building a galaxy united by uniformity," he said quietly. "But you've shown us something far more powerful, a galaxy united by diversity. Each civilization free to develop in their own way, yet all working together toward a greater understanding of the universe." Sarah smiled as she watched the various species below continuing their work, each approaching the mysteries of the cosmos in their own unique way. "That's the real power of the human approach, Klon. Not our technology, not our methods, but our understanding that the best way to reach the stars is to let everyone find their own path to them." As night fell over New Alexandria, the archive's lights came on, not the uniform illumination of the past, but a harmonious blend of different lighting technologies, each optimized for different species' visual perception. It was a small change, but it perfectly symbolized the transformation taking place across the galaxy. A new age had begun, one where diversity wasn't just accepted, but celebrated as the driving force of progress itself. New Dawn. 5 years after Earth's declaration of independence, the Galactic Council chamber had transformed beyond recognition. Gone were the rigid hierarchical arrangements that had defined it for millennia. In their place, a fluid, organic space allowed representatives from hundreds of civilizations to interact in ways that suited their natural forms and tendencies. Grand Administrator Vextol, now serving in an advisory role to the newly formed Galactic Cooperation Assembly, stood beside Ambassador Lyra Martinez as they watched the proceedings. Crystalline beings interfaced directly with the chamber systems through lattice integration nodes. Energy beings pulsed through quantum state channels that allowed them to participate as pure consciousness. Even the chamber's atmosphere adjusted automatically to suit the needs of different biological species. "I remember standing in this very spot," Vextol mused, certain that Earth's actions would lead to chaos and conflict. Instead, he gestured to the chamber below, where representatives from formerly antagonistic species now worked together seamlessly. "Instead, you found that order doesn't require uniformity," Lyra finished, "and that understanding differences leads to stronger connections than forcing everyone to be the same." The central holographic display showed the latest data from the Stellar Diversity Initiative. Over 2,000 worlds had now joined, each developing along their own technological paths while contributing to the greater whole. The results were stunning. Breakthrough after breakthrough as different species approach universal challenges in their own unique ways. The Arthropodian collective's bioorganic computing matrices, Vextol noted, indicating one of the display's highlights. They would never have discovered that under our old system. We would have insisted they adopt crystalline computing standards instead of exploring their natural affinity for biological processing. And look how their discoveries are now helping other species, Lyra pointed out. The medical applications alone have revolutionized healing for dozens of biological civilizations, different paths leading to shared benefits. A soft chime announced the arrival of Admiral Helena Chen, now serving as Earth's representative to the Assembly's Technology Exchange Commission. She joined them at the observation point, her expression thoughtful as she surveyed the chamber. "The latest numbers are in," she reported. "Galactic productivity is up 800% compared to pre-independence levels. But more importantly, look at the distribution." She brought up a new display showing development patterns across different species and regions. "No single dominant technology," Vextol observed. "No standardized development path. Instead, we see thousands of unique approaches," Helena finished. "Each civilization building on their natural strengths, each contributing something only they could discover. The Photonic Alliance's quantum communication networks, the Silicon world's molecular manufacturing techniques, Earth's wave particle drive systems, all working together in ways we never imagined possible. Below them, the assembly was discussing the latest proposal from the Crystalline Confederation, a network of space-folding waypoints that would allow faster-than-light travel for all species, regardless of their technological base. It was a perfect example of the new paradigm. One civilization's unique insights being used to benefit all, while still respecting each species' right to develop their own methods of advancement. "We were so afraid of the past," Vextel said quietly. "The precursor wars taught us that technological differences could lead to devastating conflicts, but we failed to understand that forcing uniformity doesn't prevent conflict. It only breeds resentment and stifles innovation. The real solution was simpler than anyone imagined," Lyra added. "Not forcing everyone to be the same, but helping everyone understand and value their differences. When each civilization is free to develop in their own way, they naturally seek to complement rather than compete with others' strengths." The chamber's lighting shifted subtly as a group of energy beings joined the discussion, their pure energy forms adding new perspectives to the debate. Helena watched them with satisfaction, remembering how, just a few years ago, such beings had been forced to use physical avatars to participate in council proceedings. "Earth's greatest contribution wasn't technological," she said. "It was philosophical. We showed the galaxy that there isn't just one path to the stars. There are as many paths as there are species to walk them." Vextel's exoskeleton reflected the chamber's shifting lights as he considered this. "And in doing so, you helped us understand something we had forgotten in our quest for stability. True strength doesn't come from making everyone the same. It comes from learning to work together while celebrating our differences." The assembly session was concluding, but unlike the old council meetings, there was no formal dismissal. Representatives continued their discussions in smaller groups, each finding the most natural way to communicate and collaborate with their peers. Some used traditional verbal communication, others shared thoughts through quantum links, while others interfaced through crystalline matrices or pure energy exchanges. "Look at them," Lyra smiled. "No one telling them how they must interact, how they must think, how they must develop. Just different species finding their own ways to work together, and achieving more than we ever did through enforced uniformity," Vextel acknowledged. "The galaxy is more peaceful now than it ever was under council control. Not because we're forcing peace, but because we're finally learning to understand each other." As the three of them watched the assembly disperse, Helena reflected on how far they'd come. Earth's declaration of independence had seemed like an ending, the end of unity, the end of cooperation, the end of galactic order. Instead, it had been a beginning. The beginning of a new understanding, a new way of seeing the universe and their place in it. "The stars are infinite," she said quietly. "It seems fitting that there should be infinite ways to reach them." Around them, the great chamber of New Alexandria continued its eternal dance of light and shadow, each reflection unique, each pattern unrepeatable. Just like the civilizations that now called the galaxy home, each following their own path to the future, each contributing their own unique light to the cosmic dawn. And in that light, the galaxy had never shone brighter.